During the first millennium or the first century after Christ, a group of people known as basket makers lived in the mountainous and semi-arid regions of southwestern North America between the years of 1 and 500. They were devoted to the art of weaving baskets. These basket makers are the ancestors of the American Indian culture known as the Anasazi. The word Anasazi has Navajo roots and can mean ancient people or ancient enemies, yet the Navajos were never the Anasazi's enemies. The Anasazi's early settlements show that they were sedentary people who grew beans, corn, cotton, and pumpkins. They also learned to produce pottery, which made cooking and storing food easier for them. They developed into proficient hunters and made great advancements in farming methods. Mesa Verde, which is southeast of the U.S. state of Colorado, was home to one of the Anasazi people's most significant communities. One of the world's most enigmatic civilizations, the Anasazi culture continues to confound historians and archaeologists. The Anasazi spent the majority of their history living in small villages dispersed throughout plateaus and valleys. But something strange happened in the middle of the 13th century. They started to band together and took the unexpected decision to relocate to steep cliffs where they constructed magnificent houses. This begs the question, why did the Anasazi decide to relocate to these cliffs? Furthermore, they made another perplexing decision just 50 years after they had moved there. They abandoned their homes and most of their possessions, giving the impression that they intended to return. But as soon as they did, they vanished off the face of the earth. Since the Anasazi had no enemies, the idea that they fought conflicts with other tribes is completely rejected. A different theory aims to explain why this civilization moved to the cliffs. Although the Anasazi could have obtained water without moving to the rocky cliffs, living there would have put their children in grave danger. They relied on the vital liquid near these walls. The Anasazi lived for over a century in a region known as the Four Corners, which is made up of the states of Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico. They must have faced great difficulty and exhaustion to make the transition to the cliff plateaus. They did so throughout the entire region, and even settled in the most inaccessible and hostile canyons. Archaeologist Archie Hanson has gathered a great deal of data that supports his intriguing theory about why the Anasazi went to the cliffs. During his research, Hanson discovered evidence of extreme violence and death in what were Anasazi settlements. These Indians gathered in areas known as kivas, where they discovered evidence of cannibalism, a shine that appears at the bottom of clay pits that appears only when a bone is cooked in this kind of container. While there were some bones discovered, they were entirely fractured and had no skulls or vertebrae. This is a contentious topic, particularly in the areas where Hopi Indians now reside. These people are the descendants of the Anasazi, and they adamantly deny that their ancestors were cannibals. The discovery of cannibalism evidence was made in 50 Anasazi settlements. This may not seem like a lot given the history of this civilization, but what's interesting is that nearly all of the evidence comes from the same time period, which spans from 900 AD to approximately 1150 AD. These dates correspond to the establishment of the Anasazi civilization's government in the great but enigmatic city known as Chaco Canyon. Constructed in the middle of nowhere, the Chaco Canyon was an impressive city. Everything points to a terrible event that befell the Anasazi people in the middle of the 12th century, and all the signs point to a violent event that had its epicenter in the Chaco Canyon, the Anasazi people's most significant colony. In its peak, between 900 and 1150 AD, Chaco was the largest cultural hub of the corners. It was more than just a metropolis. It was also the site of important religious rituals, when people congregated to worship their deities in kivas. However, the city was abruptly abandoned in 1150, and its residents vanished. One of the most popular hypotheses holds that the Anasazi were forced to leave their communities due to a severe drought. However, studies done on the soil and the trees used to build their homes show that the Anasazi had experienced and survived greater droughts in the past. Everything seems to point to a darker, more nefarious event that brought this remarkable civilization to an end. One of the challenges archaeologists have when studying the Anasazi civilization is that they did not write which makes it impossible to understand or explain certain of their cultural practices. The Navajo Indians, who currently reside in the Four Corners, have never visited the Chaco Canyon. When questioned about it, they merely respond, "Something very bad happened there." Without a doubt, the Anasazi have left a dark impression on Native Americans in North America. They have legends about that civilization that are passed down from generation to generation, but they keep those stories hidden from outsiders. However, there is another account of the Anasazi people's experiences found in the petroglyphs they carved into the cliff walls. These enormous rocks bear drawings of strange, gigantic creatures that appear to be carrying a number of devices on their heads. Theories based on these drawings attempt to explain these strange occurrences as being related to extraterrestrial life. The intricacies of these paintings allow us to observe otherworldly entities that are not human and that are enormous in comparison to the Anasazi in terms of both form and size. There is a hypothesis that the Anasazi were compelled to provide human sacrifices to extraterrestrial beings, although this theory is not supported by official archaeological documents. This civilization was peaceful and attempted to protect itself by moving to inaccessible locations like the cliffs. Nevertheless, something happened that caused them to fall victim to the creature's power, forcing them to construct the remarkable stone structures in the Chaco Canyon for them. Another theory stems from Hopi Indian legends, which claim that the Anasazi, the ancestors of the Hopi people, were anticipating the advent of kachinas, spirits, or other otherworldly things. These creatures reportedly assisted the Anasazi in defending themselves against their attackers, which ultimately caused the evil entities to leave their territory. Subsequently, a unique connection emerged between the Anasazi and the kachinas. The latter imparted to them extensive information about the cosmos and stars. In fact, they left behind ample proof of their familiarity with astronomy and the seasonal cycles. The summer and winter solstices are mentioned in a number of petroglyphs. One of the most significant aspects of their star observations is that an Anasazi Indian drew the appearance of a new star on a cliff wall. This drawing correlates to the Crab Nebula supernova explosion, which occurred in 1050 AD. The dates of the astronomical event and the drawing are confirmed by dating carbon-14 from the remains of a bonfire that was located nearby. Another theory that piques everyone's interest holds that the supernova explosion signaled the arrival of extraterrestrial beings in the year 1050. 100 years of conflict ensued between these beings and the malevolent aliens, during which time the star beings developed a close bond with the Anasazi people, to the point where they chose to adopt them as their own. Maybe this will sound corny and romantic, and maybe you, my dear reader, will believe that the Anasazi people's history is replete with myths and strange, even ridiculous, legends. However, neither official archaeology nor historians have been able to definitively explain the Anasazi people's mysterious disappearance to this day, and maybe they never will.